Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another review, and today I'm taking a look at the high-grade Gespenst, as in I Gespenst all my money on plastic model robots. As always, if you do want one of your own, there is a link to Hobby Link Japan down there in the description. Now here we go. So jumping in straight away with the build, and let's get through this quite quickly. So this is again, just like the Raider Gundam that we took a look at yesterday, is ridiculously impressive in the way that Bandai has done so much with so little. The color separation on here is fantastic, and all the parts are made out of just the amount of parts they need to be highly color separated, have a whole bunch of articulation, and still look really good without too many parts. Everything builds up perfectly. Even though this is black plastic, none of the knobs really showed up that much. I will mention during this build, I did it quite quickly, so it's just one step off the runner and that is it with no cleanup. Still, the knob placement means you'll see none of those anywhere. We've got tons of tiny little parts to give this some nice yellow and red detail all over the place, and some of the parts are very, very tiny. In a way, this kit blows my mind because this is a high-grade kit with the kind of hands that we only really see in master grades, which we'll take a look at later. So yeah, I guess the general gist of the build of this kit is there aren't a whole lot of parts per individual body element, but the way they build up give it all the color separation you'd expect from a kit with more parts. Bandai has gotten great at designing kits for maximum impact with minimal parts. Let's check out the finished build. So anyway, jumping into the aesthetics, and as usual, starting off with that full 360-degree spin. Once again, I am super impressed by this right here. This is predominantly in a almost matte black, so this does diffuse the light very nicely, which does kind of contrast subtly but nicely with the missile segments around back, which are actually made out of a gloss black, so the black is separated ever so slightly. On top of that, we do have ridiculous detail here. The way they've made the parts layer on top of each other, especially the red that you can see in the chest and the shoulders, that is ridiculously impressive. This kit features a whole bunch of very nice detail, and before I actually mention that, I will say this does have a silver that is in the injection style silver plastic. So whether or not you like that or not is up to you, and if you want to grab a paint to cover that up, but I think it actually works quite well in this kit. It's almost like an almost kind of brushed aluminium that we're looking at on here. This works, especially on the front panel there and around on the wings. This looks great. As for the nice individual details that we have on this, we do have a nice clear segment in the, what I can only describe as the eyes section on here, which really does catch the light in a nice kind of way. And underneath that, we do have a little bit of detail that is eyes, but that is pretty hard to see once it's all assembled. But that is in there underneath the clear orangey red part. Any of the cables on this have a really cool pattern actually molded into them. When I was actually looking at the box, I thought this was the old varnish tube that we would have seen in kits like the Master Grade Gundam Mark II 2.0, but this is actually plastic, so if that was given a nice panel lining or a wash of some sort, that would bring out the detail phenomenally. Again, this looks incredible. So yeah, when it comes to the color separation here, it is phenomenal. Now, I took a look at the front and rear image that we have on the box of this, and the only thing that seems to be color inaccurate, if you could even call it that, is any of these segments like this little bit right here on the crotch, and that actually might be it. And oh, also inside of these segments right here. Those are blacked out on the inside on the box, but that is a fairly simple thing to do with a Gundam marker or a little bit of paint. Besides that, this thing is absolutely blowing my mind with the way that it has color separated out all the parts. Now, I will mention I did want to compare this to the recently released Articulation, but that is actually, how do I put it? I live in a tiny little apartment that doesn't have that much space to actually store stuff in, so I've got a bit of a storeroom going, and it's really clogged with kits. So that means it's in this box at the bottom of this pile of boxes, and I'm not getting that out anytime soon. Anyway, the Articulation looked like this. It was a fantastic kit. This is a fantastic kit too. Let's check out the accessories. So now jumping into the accessories, and here's absolutely everything the high-grade Gespenst comes with. First off, we've got a full action base in here, which is always a nice plus. A smaller little stand for using with the weapons. As for the weapons we got in here, we've got a pair of plasma cutters with blades, and one plasma cutter that does not have one. We've got the neutron beam, a pair of slash rippers, and a whole bunch of swappable fingers for using with the hands, which is pretty damn awesome. So starting off first with the hands, what we've gotten here is more akin to a master grade than a high grade, or more particularly I guess like a Reborn 100. So these hands feature a thumb that does have articulation, so it can be moved around just like so, as you'd expect with a master grade, and then some swappable style fingers. So what we have here straight away is fists. You can pop that out, and inside of that then we've got what is a kind of slot like you'd see in a master grade or Reborn 100. Then just grab whatever alternate fingers that you want. I'm going to be going with these nicely posed widespread ones. They just pop on into that slot like so for an entirely different looking hand. Now we've only got a widespread dynamic for the right hand side, and everything else we have in here seems to be using for a weapon of some variety or another because they're all holding hands, so we'll get to those later. But yeah, the fact that this kit has hands that are almost a master grade style once again is super impressive, and that's a nice posed hand. So now I'm moving through the weapons, and we've got the pair of plasma cutters. So these are essentially just beam sabers. We have a pair of 2 of these with beams, or should I say we've got 3 handles and we've got 2 beams. So getting these into the hands is exactly the way you'd expect. You pop out the fingers that are attached, grab a hand for holding onto one of these plasma cutters, attach it in just like so, and that then just pops into that slot just like that right there. So from what I can see, these are the beams of a master grade, particularly what I've seen with the master grade Gundam Wing. Now, this does make them nice and long, and if you're unfamiliar with Super Robot Wars OG like I am, well, here's the blurb from the manual. What it says about the plasma cutters is that these are large, high output, high power plasma cutters. 3 units are equipped on the left forearm. This composition was adopted at the beginning of development as a countermeasure to manage the short functional time of each plasma cutter, but this issue was revised later on. So that's why there's 3. So when these are not in use, they can be stored in the front of the left forearm, which is such a cool position. I will mention there is an extra handle left over on the runners because it's split up into 2 runners, 2 and 2, so you have 4 handles. A spare one just in case you lose one. So considering these are stored on the left forearm, I assume this particular robot doesn't actually hold them on, well, in its left hand, even though there is a left hand holding hand for holding on to these if you want. Next up in here we've got the pair of slash rippers. These are very nicely done. We've got something that appears to be like a bit of plastic or acetate with the print of the spinning blades on them. That is very effective. It's a lot more dynamic than if they actually put 3 blades sticking out from them. These have 2 forms. That is this right here, which is the in the middle of being thrown form, or you can actually take this, remove 1/2, take away this little disc segment, pop this back together, and this then is the stored form. The stored form can be attached on the inside of the wings just like so on both sides. And in order to display the activated throne form, we do have an included little stand here, which is posable. So you can get that into the position that you want. There is a 3mm hole in this, and you can then pop that onto the stand to set that up in whatever kind of throne position you want. And that is pretty cool. So while we're on the topic of stands, we do get a full action base in here, as well as all the included bits and bobs. So all the different arms and holding parts for using with other kits is included. So if you want to stand for using with something else, you could use this as well. The action base part in here is pretty cool. This actually just pops out from between the legs just like that, what you're seeing right here. And then you just pop that into the action base like so. Which is kind of cool because it does allow this to kind of angle a little bit while it's up here, so you can kind of choose the pose, which usually isn't something you get with, well, these action bases. Next up in here, we've got the long-range weapon, which is the neutron beam. This is all in the same black plastic as the backpack, not the actual robot itself. This is in a shiny gloss plastic. The only different color we have here is the only sticker that is in this kit, and that's the one on the lens right there in green. So this is the only sticker in the box. Everything else is color separation. And speaking of color separation, the only place where this really lacks is actually on this weapon right here. That pipe on the side, that is meant to be in a red color, as you can see right there in the manual. But besides that, this kit is very color accurate. As for the info on this particular weapon, the manual says this is a large rifle carried by the Gespenst. Although the name includes the word neutron, it's actually a neutral particle beam cannon. However, the weapon used by Gilliam has a black box within it, which may have a mechanism related to neutrons. Gilliam is the pilot, by the way, and that is him right there. Once again, attaching this involves swappable fingers, so that is one with a trigger finger. we only have a right hand version for this, so this can only hold its weapon in its right hand. Slide it on in there. Let's pop that hand out one more time. And let's see exactly how easy this is to get into position. There we go. Ooh, the thumb. Okay, here we go. Pop. Yeah, that was super simple. So this right here holds on perfectly, looks badass, and we do have a handle right there that can be used for dual handing this. So it can be held in both hands at the same time. So now jumping into the articulation, and first off I'll mention this is a kit that is super solid. This is not going to fall apart or drop a pose ever. The neck on this is ever so mildly disappointing because even though it does have a little bit of a giggity goo, the bottom joint in this is just a little bit of a hinge and doesn't do much. And the top ball joint mainly just gives you side to side. You can look down and up ever so, well, I guess that's not so bad. It's a little bit restricted, but again, not the worst. But from the torso down, it really starts to improve. The shoulders here are really cool. They're extending ball joints. So the shaft inside of the body actually extends out to give us even more. So there's a lot of range of movement here. So once again, there's the arm raised all the way up. There it is all the way down with the shoulder held up, but the shoulder then moves down from there. So it is connected to the shoulder. We do have the full 360 spin, but the wing will get in the way. I'm going to pop this off here so you can see we've got the full 360 spin at the upper arm, which is a little bit difficult to access when the arm is attached. As you can see, we've got a ball joint attaching the forearm on, this very cubile looking forearm. So that does mean we have a ball joint here to give you all of this to keep the whole cuff segment out of the way. And we do then have a single point bend. So the combination of both, when in the right position, gives you a decent enough bend. There is a lot of armor all over the place with this kit, but Bandai has worked around it quite well. The wrist in here is your standard ball joint, does what a ball joint does. The thumb can move on a ball joint as well. I will mention this elbow ball joint here is quite prone to popping. It pops on me quite often, and that is on both sides. So just be gentle with those. So I'm popping off the wings so we can see what we get in the abs here. So the instruction says to pull this up so you can access that ball joint, but it can pop off quite easily. Once you have it moved up, you can get that side to side pivot in there. A little bit of an ab crunch forward and back, but nothing too crazy, mainly to the back. Then we've rotation like that, which you can also combine with that little bit of a side crunch. So the Gespenst here has crazy intricate and very large front skirting armor and side skirting and rear skirting. So as you'd expect, that would get in the way of the articulation, but Bandai did design this quite well. So first off, this right here features a double ball joint system, so you can pull out like that. You can then move it out and off to one side, which is a really cool design. So you can actually move this flappy up like so out of the way of the leg. This one here can be raised ever so slightly. This is a ball joint, so it's got forward and back a bit. So that does mean then, when you've got it like this, we should be able to kick that leg out from in there without it getting in the way. That is such a nice design. That is well thought out. You can't do both legs at once, of course, because, you know, the armor is moved over, but that is quite good. What the hell? What the hell? So yeah, this kit may not have an ab crunch, but if you grab the bottom of the booty here and pull it forward, we've got an ab crunch in the actual waist unit. How cool is that? So yeah, that combined then with the fact that the leg can kick up like that, you can get dynamic poses out of this beast. I didn't even know you could. So I'm guessing by rotating this back out of the way, we can also get the splits. Yeah, the leg can kick out entirely to the side. That is nice. Just a standard waist joint in there, or should I say hip joint, so there is no up and down movement action, but it doesn't need it. Next up then, we do have the full 360 spin at the upper leg. I'm going to pop off the leg to check out that knee so we can see it clearly. There is the leg all the way straight, so I'll keep this parallel to the ground while bending so you can see how far it goes. That's one joint. There's the second joint, and that is a nice bend right there. So getting that on the ground now to test out the functional movement. And first off, we've got this joint right here, which is actually in the leg at this point. That is pretty cool. So there is the foot all the way to the front. As you could expect, that armor does clash. There it is all the way out to the back, which is quite incredible, honestly, considering the kind of kit that this is. There it is side to side, and that is a little bit limited. And as for the foot, do we have any kind of toe bend? No, we do not, but wait, there's a little bit more in there. Oh wait, we saw that already. Very nice. So as for the articulation, this is a big hefty boy of a robot, so I wasn't expecting much, so I got a lot more out of this than I was expecting. The only thing that is a little bit of a disappointment is the movement of the ankle up towards the front, so you can't get any kind of deep lunges. But besides that, there's a lot going on here. The hidden crunch down in the waist, to the awesome shoulders that allow for so much movement, to the fact that you can actually move the giant skirting armor out of the way to one side to kick the legs up. I am impressed by what Bandai has done here. So anyway, that right there is it for the review, and just like I said with the high grade Altizen, this right here is gold tier, and that to me means this is better than your average high grade by a far large margin. This is a great kit. When it comes to the looks, this looks phenomenal. The color separation is great, and we've got a mix of both matte and gloss black on this with great red and yellow as highlights. The way the parts layer up on each other is phenomenal, giving us a lot of nice detail and pretty much 95% color accuracy. The accessories in here are cool. We've got 3 beam sabers, 2 beams, but well, it seems like this mecha will only be using one at a time, so you couldn't really ask for any more. The slash rippers are very nicely executed. We've got a nice big old rifle, and we also get a full included action base, which is always awesome. And never mind the fact that we've got swappable master grade, and I did stumble on master grade, I would say more like Reborn 100 style hands. Lastly then, the articulation is so impressive for what I thought would be a very limited kit, but it is not. If you love Super Robot Wars and you love model kits, you need this one right here in your collection. Anyway, as always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more model kit reviews, and I'll see you next time. As always, this video and every video would not be possible without each and every one of you guys who watches my videos. And special thanks to those of you who are supporting me over on Patreon and on the channel members, including Caleb Engelhart, Global Frequency Studios, Go Little Rockstar, Gunpla UK Limited, Joe, Kill Me Inc., Lawrence Seahack, RG59061, and Van Fawn.